Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another BRAP. It is Friday, October the 4th. Can't believe, seriously, I still can't believe it's October already. This year is flying by really fast. But I want to welcome everyone to the show. Um, as I mentioned Wednesday, I didn't do the Wednesday night show, but did like a Wednesday afternoon show instead. And as I mentioned, I was going to do a show this Friday. So here we are for the Friday BRAP rant. I don't know. I guess this is kind of a rant. I don't know. It's a Friday show. I don't know if I'm calling it a rant or not. Haven't decided. But big shout out to Otacon Oscillate. What's going on? And do me a quick favor, everyone. I'm going to retweet the link here in the live chat. Please share the link on your favorite social media channel. Let everyone know that we are live. So, got a couple things to talk about. What's going on, Ghost in the Garage? What's going on? Got a couple things to talk about here. We did talk about this on Wednesday, but this is a story from earlier in the week. It came out actually on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, that Microsoft wants to know why some game developers aren't on Xbox. We'll talk about that. We have some breaking Ubisoft news that we're going to discuss. Also, big shout out to Air Cuts for the win. I watched a video of hers last night. It was kind of like a compilation of the reaction of some content creators over the reveal of Ghost of Yote. And there was another tweet that BG put out yesterday as well that really resonated with me, something that I've talked about quite a bit here. And that's really this idea that I'd say idea. Just that I feel like people are just angry. Yeah, gamers. Oh, you helped her on that video? Okay, T-Rock. T-Rock, I tell you, that was a really good video. That was actually one of my favorite videos that she's done more recently. Very well done, and kind of it drives home this point of just the outrage people have and just trying to shit on games like just at the inception of or the release of a trailer. It's like, oh, that is terrible. It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't understand it. I certainly understand someone looking at a video trailer and saying, that really doesn't resonate with me. But it's like, just taking a trailer and just decomposing the lighting and the graphics and this and that. And is it next gen enough? I don't understand it. I think it's, I don't know. I just feel like people are just angry and outraged and upset and just, I think at times just overly critical of the art of gaming. I'm not saying there's valid criticism to be had, but I think it's a bit concerning when people are just tearing things down at the first sight. Like, oh my God, like this reveal trailer. Oh, I can certainly understand the perspective. Okay, this trailer doesn't resonate with me, but I just, the over nitpicking is really what I'm referring to. So anyhow, we're going to talk about that too, and just the whole woke DEI stuff. It's something kind of BG talked about, tweeted out. Just the anger about that. I'm like, why? It's fucking video games. What are we doing here, people? Why is everyone so angry? I don't get it. But anyhow. All right. I do want to go to Ubisoft because this is a developing story, something that came out today. Actually, per Bloomberg. It's reported that Tencent Holdings and Ubisoft's founding, the Guillemot, I don't know if I'm pronouncing their last name correctly, the founding Guillemot family are considering options, including a potential buyout of the French video game developer after it lost more than half its market value this year. This is according to people familiar with the matter. Tencent, the Chinese tech company, and the Guillemot Brothers, Ltd., have been speaking with advisors to help explore ways to stabilize Ubisoft and bolster its value. The people said, asked not to be identified, discussing a private matter. One of the possibilities being discussed would involve teaming up to take the company private, according to these people. Shares of Ubisoft have fallen 54% in Paris trading this year. giving the company a market capitalization of about 1.4 billion euros or 1.5 billion US dollars. Tencent owned 9.2% of Ubisoft's net worth. Tencent actually owned 9.2% of Ubisoft's net voting rights at the end of April, while the Guillemot family held about 20.5%, according to the firm's latest annual report. Some minority shareholders, including AJ Investments, have been pushing for either a take private or a sell of Ubisoft to a strategic investor amid the stock price plunge. Considerations are at an early stage, and there's no certainty they will lead to a transaction. Tencent and the Guillemot family are also considering other alternatives, according to the People. Spokespeople for Ubisoft and the Guillemot family declined to comment. A representative for Tencent couldn't immediately comment during a holiday week in China. Last month, Ubisoft shares fell to their lowest in more than a decade after the company cut its outlook on weaker than expected sales and a delay on the hotly anticipated Assassin's Creed Shadows title. The video game firm for the past couple of years struggled to recover from a pandemic-era production crunch that resulted in delays in the release of new games and canceled titles. Several private equity firms, including Blackstone Inc. and KKR and Company, were studying potential bids for Ubisoft in 2022 amid a flurry of large deals in the video game industry. Bloomberg News reported at the time last year that the founding family partnered with Tencent, which bought 49.9% of the Guillemot Brothers holding company, in addition to the direct stake it held in Ubisoft. The deal was seen by analysts as a way of keeping suitors at bay, allowing the brothers to remain in control of the Ubisoft's governance, with Tencent stake capped below 10% with no operational veto rights. Under the deal, Tencent also couldn't sell its shares in Ubisoft for 5 years, after which the Guillemot family has the right for first refusal. The pact still allows the brothers to talk and work with whomever they want. Ubisoft chairman and chief executive officer Yves Guillemot said in an interview last year. So this is a developing story. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen with Ubisoft? It's kind of interesting. It's at least the initial report does seem like they are leaning towards taking the private company themselves and Tencent. It doesn't seem like the Guillemot brothers want to see control of the company, but who knows? Money talks. I'm not going to speculate and sit there and say Microsoft should buy them, Xbox should come in, Sony should buy them. Maybe actually I shouldn't say that. There are some valuable IPs. If PlayStation could buy them, that would certainly be an interesting acquisition, to say the least, by PlayStation. I don't think they will. I'm sure some people are speculating and wondering, doing the kind of fantasy football, if you will, with who might, if Ubisoft is going to be sold, who might buy Ubisoft, and I'm sure people will discuss PlayStation and Xbox. I'm sure the Xbox content creators will be running wild like Hulkamania with ideas of what if Xbox buys Ubisoft. I don't think Microsoft's is looking at any. I could be wrong, but I don't think Microsoft's looking at buying additional publishers, developers, considering the amount of money they just spent on ABK and how that deal kind of changed the economics, the dynamics for their business. So, it's good. Most Sony would be interesting is in acquiring IPs. Yeah, Brian, I mean, assuming those IPs are for sale, maybe, yeah. Ubisoft is a studio. Frankly, PlayStation has better. Yeah, I mean, I don't think PlayStation's going to buy them. I don't think they're. I think given the focus on increasing profit margins, I don't see that as a likely acquisition by PlayStation. It would be interesting if it happened. I mean, they would acquire some really valuable IPs that you would imagine would be first-party exclusive games. I don't see PlayStation acquiring that unless it was demanded upon or was some kind of like similar to the Bungie situation. But I think with single player games, I don't see them saying, "Oh, we're going to keep these games on our on other rival platforms." I could be wrong, but I just don't see Sony doing that. Hey, what's going on, Ice Cream Gaming? Hey, what's going on, Sam Walton? Anacon Oslet, Brian East. Mr. Grimm says Microsoft is staying away from huge acquisitions in the foreseeable future. I don't disagree with that. I think that's fair, given the biggest acquisition they've ever made was with ABK, and we know that the dynamics of that deal certainly has changed things for Xbox. The impact. So I think Slomo had talked about something like this happening. I think he mentioned this in the DM. I know he's talked about a little bit on his show and on BRAP. I don't know if Slomo's listening, but if he is, if you want to jump in, Slomo, love to get your perspective on Ubisoft. Excuse me. All right, let's see here. So that's we'll it's going to be interesting to see how the story develops. Yeah. By the way, GameIndustry.biz has a article out. 53% of gamers prefer single player games. Almost 3/4 of those age 55 plus prefer to play solo. So this is an article by Sophie McVoy. Again, this is per GameIndustry.biz. I thought this was kind of interesting too. According to media research, or I'm sorry, not media, Media, MIDIA, Media research. This game mode is most popular across all platforms, particularly in mobile, with 58% respondents saying they preferred single-player games. The data from the survey was collected from Media's research Q1 2024 and Q1 2023 consumer surveys across the U.S., UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, France, Poland, Turkey, and South Africa. Research found that older gamers were more drawn to single-player titles, with 74% of gamers age over 55 choosing to play video games. So that actually doesn't surprise me. Meanwhile, players age between 20 and 24 ages. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. Meanwhile, players aged between 20 and 24 preferred to play PvP games at 43%. The report also found that almost a third of those surveyed were motivated to play on their own if they had access to a free demo. So interesting. This sort of kind of bucks, I think, the perspective that some people have that people want more, games as a service type games or multiplayer games, PvP type games. We're seeing that even the younger generation, ages 2024, this survey showing that 43% of those respondents prefer to play PvP games. So, and then I'm not surprised by, seeing as you go up to the age group that those older are at a higher rate at 74% are choosing to play games. So I don't play as many PvP type games as I used to, for sure, as I've gotten older. Like that. Not that I don't play. I just don't like playing games, PvP games, multiplayer games solo. I like to go in there with a squad. But just me personally, like I've certainly have probably in the last couple years probably shifted more my attention more to single player games as opposed to PvP type games. Yeah, and I always, it's interesting. I always tell people to pay attention to these kind of surveys because, there's that narrative that consoles are dying, that, the millennials don't play consoles. And the ESA, if you're not familiar with the ESA, they're the Entertainment Software Association. They're the nonprofit organization that used to put together trade organization for the video game industry. They're the ones that behind the now defunct E3 show. But they put out a survey earlier this year. We talked about it on this show that showed that millennials and Gen Z were playing consoles more than Gen X, which was kind of surprising to me. So, much of the narrative that we heard about, Gen Z and millennials from pundits was, consoles are dying, they're not playing consoles, et cetera, et cetera. And then the ESA does a survey, and you see that, in fact, that those age groups are in fact playing consoles, even more so than the older generation of gamers like Gen X. So, if you're interested in that survey, I would encourage you to go to the ESA's website. They have it up there. Definitely check that out. A lot of great information there. Dr. Dryrub says Ubisoft has some of the best IPs in the industry. Yeah, they certainly have some very valuable IPs. Assassin's Creed being a big one. There's some others there. Rainbow Six. The Ubisoft situation is just really interesting because, they've had issues, and despite having these really, recognized IPs like Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia, Rainbow Six. I still do hope that we get another Splinter Cell. I fingers crossed. Fingers crossed on Splinter Cell. I want to see it, but don't know if that's something that is in the if Ubisoft's going to deliver on. We'll see. So I thought that survey was kind of interesting. That 53% of gamers prefer single-player games. Again, this is according to Medea Research. All right, I want to go to... so one thing I want to talk about... I need to pull this tweet up here real quick. I want to talk about here. Let's see here. Something BG tweeted the other day. Actually, let me see this. By the way, Rod Ferguson, if you guys saw this, did confirm that the new Diablo DLC will support PS5 Pro features. Well, we kind of said this too with the PS5 Pro. We said that that the PS5 would probably have the definitive experience of Xbox first-party games. And I would expect that that's probably going to be the case. For like games like Indiana Jones. All right, let's see if I found I'm looking for this tweet here. All right, so you guys have heard me talk about this quite a bit. Just the whole woke stuff, people crying about female protagonists. Is she sexy enough? Why there's a female protagonist? The historical accuracy of Assassin's Creed Shadow. Oh no, blah, 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 right? So BG put out a great tweet where he says people like Grums, and if you know who Grums is, he's a former game developer and is in part behind he spreads a lot of the woke stuff, DEI, which I think is just a dog whistle for racism. I've said this before. I mean, there are plenty of games with white male protagonist, straight protagonist, if you will. There are plenty of games with sexy female protagonist. Go play those games, right? But BG says people like Grums and Andy Minion, I don't even know who that is, and other grifters. I don't disagree with them because I think a lot. I think people are. Look, let's just be honest here. I think there are a lot of content creators that are grifting, that are making money off people's emotion and people being angry over things that are very trivial as relates to video games, things that are ultimately inconsequential to the enjoyment of video games. But that's the meme culture, right? That's the rage. It's I'm sure if I put out rage videos, I probably have more viewers, but we don't do that here. We aspire to have a higher level of conversation around video games here on this show. Dr. Jarvis says 100% is no different than MSNBC and Fox feeding on emotions. Yeah, I do think that there's some media outlets that do that. I would say Fox is probably probably a bigger offender of that than MSNBC. I'm not saying MSNBC doesn't do that, but I've watched both. That's how I typically get my news, from the AP, Reuters, or the Wall Street Journal. But yeah, no, I think they absolutely. It's not news reporting as much as punditry and pundits, making commentary on whatever things are happening, and we see it in gaming. It's just stupid. I don't understand why it's leaked into gaming punditry and everyone getting angry when they see a trailer and, oh my God, this isn't next gen enough, or this is that, or this is the protagonist isn't sexy. I mean, like, I don't recall ever having those kind of conversations growing up in gaming. When we were playing video games, I mean, the graphics thing did. Yeah, we were like, oh, those graphics don't look good. They suck. But we weren't trying to kill games by the first screenshot. I mean, there's so much anger in over video games, and I don't understand it. Like, these are supposed to be forms of entertainment, and someone needs to do like a sociological study on gaming culture, or maybe some psychiatrist should do a study on gaming culture and get to the bottom of why people are so angry at things as it relates to video games. Because it's like I'm wondering, like, is it that these people don't have anything other productive or anything worthwhile in their life outside video games? Like, is this hobby really like their identity as an individual? Are they fanatics in that way? Are they people who are just, hey, video games is how I identify myself. It gives me purpose. It gives me, defines who I am. I think that's a bit odd. I've been playing video games for over 40 years, and I don't look at video games like that. I look at it as a form of entertainment. And I just think this whole woke DI agenda, I think it's stupid, frankly. Everyone blaming, and I want to read BG's tweet here. So he talks about, grifters have ruined any nuance of gaming discourse for their own profitability. I agree with that 100%. I've said this on this show. There is a level of nuance that is grossly lacking in video games, in the conversation around video games. Dr. Jarvis says people are too invested in corporations and Twitter. Yeah, I mean, people have these weird parasocial relationships with companies. Why? Stop that. These companies don't care about you. Yeah, the Element Hero, the Shadow, I know you disagree with that BG is saying, but I don't disagree with them all. And frankly, I think you are part of the problem with the conversation around DEI and woke, because I've had conversations with you. And yes, I'm going to pick on you because I think it's frankly ridiculous. Especially over something like video games. Video games. Video games are art. Art is open to interpretation. People forget about that. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the like? This is why I'm gonna get on my soapbox now. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? It's art. Video games are an art form. And in art, to Brian East's point, art is open to interpretation. Gaming is open to interpretation. And it's odd that you have a subset of the community who's like, oh, DI, woke DI, blah, 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 blah. You know, oh my God, female protagonist. Oh my God, DI, blah. You know, it's so weird. You know, it's so weird because it is, in one hand, they are trying to censor, you know, the diversity of protagonists in video games, but they're also, one developer brought that up. Element Hero. One developer is not one instance is not a trend. And it's so dumb. Like, I've seen people, oh, the guy from Warhammer, blah, you know, he brought it up, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, like, it's not a problem. There have been plenty of games that would be considered by the anti DEO woke crybaby crowd that have been very successful, that have been commercially successful, that have been critically successful. Look at games like Hades. Look at games like Celeste. Look at games like Baldur's Gate 3. Look at games like Spider-Man. Look at games like TLU 2. It's just stupid. It's this narrative that's been created by people that I don't think have anything better to do in their lives. They have no purpose. And because they have no purpose in life, because they don't maybe have a job that's rewarding to them or a life that is rewarding to them, I believe this. I believe that a sociologist or a psychologist needs to dive into this, because I think it's a matter of these individuals who are so wrapped around the axle and so worked up about this and lathered up over fucking a video game, which is an art form, and art is subject to interpretation, that they just don't have anything better in their lives to do, that they're searching for some kind of something that's missing inside. They're searching for a way to feel included, to feel liked, to be part of a community. And for whatever reason, they have clung to this idea. Developer had a point. That was his point. What happened to Dragon Quest? Dragon Quest was a critically acclaimed game, sold well. What happened to Alloy? Alloy was a critically acclaimed game and sold well. What's happened to Silent 2? Cause of censorship. So you're arguing against censorship, but you yourself are arguing for censorship. The problem element here is that you can't provide a tangible impact to the consumer of these things. These things that you're arguing against. And that's the bottom line. That's what I'm saying. There's something, I think there's something wrong with you guys, Element Hero. Like, you guys, it's so trivial. It's so weird. And I don't know if it's a matter of, not, maybe like, I don't know, maybe these people are trying to cling on to something. Maybe they're angry about something. I don't know. It's so weird. And they focus so much time when there's actually, Grand Theft Auto 5 or 4, excuse me, the Ballad of Gay Tony. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Okay, so what if they changed the character? Again, did it impact the enjoyment of the game? No. It's like, who the fuck cares? You guys, you're so lathered up with something that's so inconsequential and trivial. I'm a fan of the original IP Elemental Hero Shadow, and I didn't care. You're taking again. You're taking but and if those gamers are upset about it, then fucking don't play it. But this crybaby stuff over video games. Listen to what you're saying, Elemental Hero. You're crying, like it's literally crying over entertainment. And this is why I don't think that people have anything better or productive going on in their lives, because they're upset about the change of a game. That is some ultra fanatical shit. Kevin Mack, great comment here, says some people lack the ability to see outside themselves. Blake McNeman says gamers are too social media pilled. They need to log off every once in a while. I don't agree. I don't disagree with you. And I think that is what's happening. You have guys like Elemental Hero. They're in these like chat rooms and they're all fucking lathered up because they don't have anything going on with their lives. They don't have anything productive. I guarantee you, if you're a productive citizen, if you are rewarded in the work that you do, the friends and family you have, the people outside of social media, I don't necessarily think that you're so lathered up over this topic that's very inconsequential. Then telling the customer we're going to lose support from, what are you talking about, Elemental Hero? Like, Elemental Hero, I'm going to pick on you. What do you do for a living, sir? I'm curious because I want to conduct this sociological study now here live on BRAP. What do you do for a living? How old are you? What is your profession? And how old are you? Silver Black says because they're not getting female action makes you grumpy. I think that's part of the problem. Seriously, Elemental here. I want you to tell me what you do professionally for a living and how old you are. Because I'm trying to understand, because I suspect the profile that I imagine in my mind may not be far too off. See, he says I prefer not to say because you don't have a job. Just answer yes or no. Do you have a full-time job? Are you above the age of 18? And by the way, look, I am if I sound a little fired up about this topic, is because I don't remember this being an issue 2 years ago. And it's become such an issue, and I really do believe it is because you have a subset of people that just don't have anything better to do with their lives. And that's why they're this angry. That's why they're this upset. You know, there we go. Silence. I think we've got our answer from the element here. I think he's probably under the age of 18, lives at home with mom and dad, doesn't work, probably spends all his time on social media, doesn't go outside and touch grass. Dude, you need to take a break, Elemental Hero. That's what it sounds like. You need to go outside, find another hobby, find something more productive to do. Because guys like you and the whole woke DI stuff are literally dragging down the discourse to the lowest common denominator. That's different, Ice Queen Gaming. That's totally different. That's understandable. But I mean, why do you prefer not to say? I mean, I think it's. I'm going to go on a limb here, but I think it's probably because you live at home, you don't have a job. Social media is your entire life. It consumes you, and I think that is what is happening with these people. Because think about this for a second, guys. It's video games. It's entertainment. It's entertainment. It's art. There's no reason why people should be this worked up or lathered up and angry over art. So I'm going to go back to what BG said. Grifters have ruined any nuance of gaming discourse for their own profitability. I agree 110%. Elemental, we're not. I'm not asking you I'm not asking you what you do for a living. You don't have to tell me what company you work for, assuming you work for one, or what you do professionally. I just asked you a question. Do you have a job? Do you live on your own? It's a yes or no question. Answer. Fresh 2180 says, I yell at the Mona Lisa because it's a DEI painting. Yeah, I'm surprised Elemental Hero isn't, and guys like Grums aren't yelling at the Mona Lisa because the Mona Lisa isn't beautiful enough. We need sexier art paintings. Ricardo 117 says, BRAP, I think you're taking it very seriously. It's his opinion. Look, an opinion is not an excuse for ignorance. And Ricardo, this is a talk show, by the way, and we are providing some nuance. You've been to this show plenty of times. I'm assuming at this point you probably understand the platform and the fact that this is a talk show. And the topic is around gamers being angry, which is why we're discussing it, which I find very trivial. I mean, it's just so I'll go back to what BG said, and it's true. Like the people are grifting off of guys like the Elemental Hero, and other people are just angry over video games, and it really is dragging down the discourse. He says now people don't even try to argue with fact, logic, or intelligence. I don't disagree with BG here. I don't disagree with him at all. People don't try to argue with fact, logic, or intelligence. He says if anything negative happens in the gaming industry, it somehow gets pointed back to some woke DEI agenda. Oh, and I've seen that quite a bit. There is no other conversation. Then BG says, so BG goes on and says there's no other conversation, consideration, possibilities, or research. He's 110% right here. Because I see this all the time. Then BG goes on to say, it's just woke. And any sound-minded person knows nothing is ever caused 100% of one thing. So your brain has to tell you these people are saying it simply for some type of selfish gain, and they themselves have an agenda. Absolutely, they have an agenda. I mean, like the Elemental Hero. Again, what? Again, you are taking pictures of the videos of the problem of recent new games like Dead Rising. What's the issue with Dead Rising? Do they change something? Oh, God forbid if they change something. Like again, I'm like I don't disagree with BG. And Elemental Hero is one of these guys who does this all the time. He comes in here, he gets all lathered up about woke DEI, you know, and you have guys who are like, you know, oh, this game failed because of Concord. It failed because it was DEI. No, Concord just wasn't a good game. You know, people are attributing the failure of games to DEI, but then you have other games that are critically, commercially, financially successful that these guys would consider, that these guys in this camp would label as woke DEI, and I just gave a couple examples of those games. Grand Theft Auto would be one. San Andreas, anyone? Horizon, T-Lu 2, Spider-Man, Hades, Celeste. I could go on. I mean, my goodness, we didn't have this conversation. BRAP, the Chang, which didn't need to be changed. One of those bosses got their script changed to not say filthy commie and other things. So what? Who the fuck cares? Why does it bother you so much? Get the fuck over it. It's not that big of a deal. You're up here all lathered up. Oh my God, BRAP to change the script to not say filthy commie and other things. Oh no. Who cares? You literally, is this literally what you think about when you go to bed? Like, seriously, do you understand how inconsequential, because it's not true remaster or remake? What? Because they changed a script? Where does it say in the laws of game development, Elemental Hero, that means that it's not a true remaster or remake? I'll wait. You're using an arbitrary standard to speak out against a change of script in a remake. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, like, I don't, like, this is what I'm saying. Someone needs to do a study. There needs to be some kind of, I wish I had David Jaffe on to talk about this. I should see if you know what, I got to get Jaffe on. It's been a while. I'd love to get Jaffe on to talk about this. But someone should really do some kind of like sociological study on the people who have these conversations around entertainment, like video games, art, video games. Because it is so trivial. It's so weird to me. And I'm telling you, I think the profile of person who does this is somebody who just doesn't have a lot going on in their lives, unfortunately. And you can sit there and say, BRAP, you're being mean. No, I mean, like, seriously, like, if you don't, I can't imagine as a productive human, productive citizen in this world, that you would be so enraged by this. That you'd be so enraged by this if you had a rewarding job, life, family. They have to be true to the original game. Says who? Says who, the Elemental Hero? Is there some bylaw? You're just making up an arbitrary standard. And if you feel that way, then fucking don't buy it. I mean, who cares? Don't buy it. But coming on here on a, getting all lathered up is just grossly immature and it's just dumb, stupid. Saber21 says, when you have real life problems, this stuff doesn't bother you. Yeah, that's my point. When you actually have real life responsibilities, when you actually have things that are positive and productive in your life, what do you again, the Elemental Hero, what are you talking about? I'm not rather up. I've seen the videos and pictures from people and they are right. Right about what? Who cares? I mean, I don't understand. Like who the fuck cares? So what? They changed the script, and if you don't like it, don't play it. there are plenty other games, remasters, that would meet your criteria of being true to the originals. Go play those. Other gamers will be okay playing the Dead Rising remaster despite some of those changes you're upset about and will enjoy it. But frankly, it's not that big of a deal. And, the elemental hero, if this is something of concern to you and you take great interest and concern and put a lot of energy into it, you might be the problem. And I frankly think a lot of these folks are the problem. Blake McMenem says it's not like the writing changes are major. Most of the script is the same. All right, so Otacon says, let's talk about Silent Hill 2. Let's talk about that. Get a headache talking about this dumb woke shit. Or this dumb people upset about DI woke in video games. So ridiculous. Oh my God. I can't. Yeah, Element here. We're just going to ignore you from now on because what you're saying doesn't even make sense. The mental gymnastics that you are displaying is just I have no comment for it, no patience. But I'm moving on to Silent Hill 2. The reviews for Silent Hill 2 are out, as Otacon also said. Who would have thought it? But Silent Hill 2 right now. Which is will not be released on the Xbox. I believe it's a timed exclusive. I believe it's a timed exclusive. Let me see something here real quick. All right, so here we go. I needed to pull this up. I knew it was a time. So Silent Hill 2 Remake is a console exclusive to PlayStation 5 for 1 year. So here we have another big release that's coming out that is not going to be released on the Xbox. Yeah, Brian says, I wasn't sure Kojima could pull it off, but here we are. I mean, it's Bloober Team. I didn't have much confidence in Bloober Team. Like just based on their previous releases. Let me go to the reviews here. Silent Hill 2 PS5 reviews currently sits at an 87 Metacritic based on 55 critic reviews. Eurogamer gave it a 100. They said, against the odds, Bloober Team has delivered a remake that both expands Silent Hill 2 in just the right places and gives careful attention to what it preserves. Push Square says, Bloober Team has faithfully and respectfully recreated one of the survival horror genre's all-time greats, modernizing Silent Hill 2 in all the right ways. So much of what made the Konami classic a masterpiece in 2001 remains in the PS5 remake 23 years later, with the same unforgettable story, satisfying exploration, and weighty combat. There were concerns in the lead up to the release, but Silent Hill 2 speaks for itself. It's a spectacular experience that once again represents survival horror at its best. I know people have been critical of quote unquote the lack of first party games on PlayStation 5, but I got to say this year has still been a pretty good year, I think, for the PlayStation 5s in terms of exclusive content. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Astrobot, Stellar Blade, Silent Hill 2, and why Black Myth Wukong isn't technically a console exclusive for them, it's not on the other platform right now. Grand Blue Fantasy, Helldivers 2. I mean, it's been a pretty good year, I think, for the PlayStation 5. I mean, Rise of the Ronin is another one. I mean, it's been a pretty good year for them, for the platform. If you're on the PlayStation 5, I think this has been a good year. All right, go back to Silent Hill 2 reviews. Let's see here. GameSpot gave it a 90. Oh, man. You know, I was on the fence about the Silent Hill 2 remake. I might have to buy it now. It's also on PC as well, but I might have to buy it. I'll probably end up getting it for PC. Let me see something here real quick. All right, so GameSpot gave it a 90. They said the original Silent Hill 2 is one of the most beloved, culturally significant, and overall best horror games ever made. I don't disagree with that. It was very culturally significant. It appeared to be the case that trying to recapture the magic of that game was to misjudge how impactful its time and place were, and how its limitations helped shape it for the better. Any studio advancing on such a project should have had a Sisyphean task ahead of them, forever chasing its essence like a moth with a hole in your net. That's actually a great analogy. However, by staying true to the original game in extremely important ways and taking calculated risks born from an understanding of the source material, all while being supported further by some of the game's original brain trust, Blooper Team has done what was reasonably considered near impossible. The remake of Silent Hill 2 is a restless dream come true. I mean, I'll tell you what, kudos to Blooper Team. Kudos to Blooper Team. PC Games gave it a 90. It says a feast for horror fans. After Alan Wake 2 and Resident Evil 4 remake, Silent Hill 2 now delivers. The dark season can come. Game Rant gave it a 90. Said the new game retains the core feeling of the original while expanding on it in brilliant and surprising ways. Blooper Team has elevated its game with the Silent Hill 2 remake and delivered what is quite simply one of the best Silent Hill games to date. I sincerely hope Blooper Team gets to keep working with Konami and we get remakes of other Silent Hill games with the same level of care that Silent Hill 2 has received. I tell you, this is, if you like the horror genre, this is this might be a must have. I'll read some of the lower scores here. Games Radar gave it a 70. Said, however you approach it, Silent Hill 2 is an atmospheric and rewarding horror game up there with the Resident Evil 4 remakes for reinventing a classic. While its strict adherence to the past can feel a little constrained at times, and a few things are lacking as a result, it nails the feel of the original well. Despite a scattering of minor issues, any negativity comes more from a place of believing the new Silent Hill 2 remake could have been better than actually being bad. The whole thing ultimately delivers and does a good job of making the series feel meaningful and relevant in a way it hasn't for years. So that was Games Radar. They actually gave it a 70. All right, so that's Silent Hill 2. By the way, let me know in the chat if you're going to pick up Silent Hill 2 remake. Let me know in the comments section below as well if this is a game that's on your radar and that you're going to pick up. Yeah, Silent Hill 2 is probably the best in the series. I remember playing it Silent Hill 2 when it came out 20 something years ago. It was great. Otacon also says I'm definitely buying it. Yeah, I mean it's whew. It comes out October 8th, 4 days. PC and PlayStation 5. Ricardo 117 says Silent Hill 2 is overrated, in my opinion. Okay, it's fair. Which of the Silent Hill games do you like, Ricardo? I tell you what, there's so many games. When I hear people like say that this is a down year for gaming, I don't agree with that perspective, that opinion. I feel like this has been a pretty good year for gaming. Certainly a lot of games that I haven't played that are on my list. My backlog is, and I'll probably never get to it because I'm just so busy right now with coaching and everything. Ice Cream Game says my late husband played the original Silent Hill 2. Ice Queen, did you play it? Oh, Ricardo, you've only played the first Silent Hill one. So, how if you've only played the first Silent Hill, how can you say Silent Hill 2 is overrated if you never played it? I'm confused here, Ricardo. You said that Silent Hill 2 is overrated, but you've only played the first Silent Hill. So how do you know Silent Hill 2 is overrated? I remember playing, Otacon. I remember playing the OG Silent Hill 2 with my lights off, with the lights off. Woo, it was scary. No, I think Ricardo. Ricardo. I guess Ricardo's not answering my question. See, and this is what I'm talking about with the conversation around gaming. Ricardo said Silent Hill 2 overrated, in my opinion. I asked him what Silent Hill games he's played. He said he's only played Silent Hill 1. So why would you ever say that a game that you've never played is overrated? This is This is what I'm talking about. It's so ridiculous. This is just the discourse. Like what are we doing here? My God, this is, oh my goodness. I can't. I really can't. I don't understand why somebody would say a game is overrated that they never played. That just doesn't make any sense. All right, Microsoft wants to know why some game developers aren't on Xbox. Now, this is according to Tom Warren at The Verge. We did talk about this on Wednesday, but the article did come out on Wednesday. Xbox Research is looking for direct feedback from developers about game tools, pain points, and more. According to the article, Microsoft wants to hear from game developers who might be skipping Xbox or those already building games using the company's developer tools. The thing that's interesting is the acknowledgement of Microsoft here that, in fact, game developers are skipping Xbox. I think some of the conclusions that we could probably initially draw to here is that one of them may be, and this is just based on feedback that we've heard from developers, is that look, there is the challenge of having to develop simultaneously for the Series X and Series S. And we know that because we've heard that from developers. And it's not all developers, but there are some developers who have been very public with that. I've heard from developers behind the scenes too that is a challenge they often have. I've also heard that when developing for Xbox, another thing in consideration is we've talked about on this show as well, is having to compete with Game Pass, having to compete with a subset of consumer that does not want to pay to play video games, that would rather just play video games utilizing the Game Pass subscription service. Now, again, it's not shade at any consumer who does that. That's well within anyone's right to do it as a consumer. If you feel like, hey, you know what, I see value. And I think again, I've said this on this show, I think Game Pass presents a tremendous value proposition to a gamer who's looking for a low cost of entry into gaming and access to a large library of gaming. I think that's if that's what they want, that's fair. But there is a potential impact where you have many consumers who are on that platform that would rather experience gaming that way as opposed to buying games. We need to understand that those are things that developers, and I've heard it from developers too, those things that developers are going to take into consideration when they're developing for the Xbox platform, that in fact they may have to compete with Game Pass. Are gamers on the Xbox platform going to buy our game, or are they going to wait and hope that it comes to Game Pass? And I'm sure they've known, Microsoft has known for some time that developers are skipping Xbox. But it kind of speaks to what we've talked about on this show, that and we've seen it this generation. We talk about the support, developer support. We've seen what happened with Baldur's Gate 3, Black Myth Wukong, Halo Infinite being delayed because of issues related to, it needing to bake a bit longer, and then getting rid of the split screen because of the Series S. I mean they have, and the developers talking about some of the challenges of developing for the Series S as well. And it's funny because I remember it was who was it? It was Xbox Colt Eastwood at the time. And gosh, that guy is, oh my goodness. We talk about grifters. But I remember him saying, oh, well, PC games scale too, blah, blah, blah. There won't be any issues with the Series S. And he was completely wrong about that because he doesn't understand how game development works. And he doesn't understand that on PC, developers can set the requirements. How do you miss that, Colt? How do you miss that fact? Oh, I know why. Because you don't know what you're talking about. But it is they're literally like on the PC side, like, because that was the argument. Oh, well, PC, they got weaker cards. Well, guess what? Developer doesn't have to support those weaker cards. They don't have to support that. Microsoft mandates that you develop for the Series S if you're developing for the Series X. They did make an exception with Baldur's Gate 3. But these are things, and then Microsoft wanting to know why developers might be skipping Xbox. The other thing too is, look, you have to develop for the Series S. You have to contend with Game Pass, and then you have to contend with a smaller install base. And the juice may not be worth the squeeze for some developers to do that. The reality is it may be more advantageous for them to develop games. Ricardo117, you're not going to do this, buddy. You said that you thought Silent Hill 2 was overrated, but you've only ever played Silent Hill 1. So how can you say that Silent Hill 2 is overrated if you never played it? Like seriously, like, we got to stop with these disingenuous takes. Like, if you haven't played something, you can't say that it's overrated if you never played it. So back to what I was saying about Xbox, but again, that argument was Series S. PC scales, there won't be any issues. It's like, again, you guys, developers can actually pick a specific cutoff point in terms of, GPU, minimum GPU requirement. They're not supporting the abundance of GPUs that are out there. And I think that, again, I just... He started making firearm videos. Really? Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. That explains everything. Did it really start making firearm videos? He might be one of the most disingenuous content creators and has done more harm to drive down the conversation around video games. Oh, wow. Corey Mass says, yeah, wow. Well, there you go. That explains everything. So when I heard people saying that, I'm like, no, that's not true, guys. You got to remember, developers can set the spec requirement. They're not obligated, as you are as a developer, to develop for Series S, things like that, right? You're not obligated as a developer to develop for a 1080. I mean, for like a 2070 GPU. You don't have to do that. There's no requirements by NVIDIA in that regard. So go back to the article here. Microsoft wants to hear from game developers who might be skipping Xbox or those already building games using the company's developers' tools. The software maker is expanding its Xbox research team to include the community of game developers seeking feedback directly from developers about tool support and the overall pain points of the Xbox platform. Some of those I just mentioned, some of those pain points. A new program, much like Microsoft's Xbox Insider one, is now open to all members of game studios, not just technical employees. Typically, it takes a lot of people to make and ship a game, including marketing, user research, artists, audio, PMs, community managers, and more, says Deborah Henderson. principal user researcher for Xbox. We want to hear from everyone who works on games or helps to support game studios, because if we can make your life easier, it makes gaming better. While the program will gather feedback about tools, performance, tuning, debugging, utilities, and plenty of other aspects of game development, it's also designed for input from game studios that aren't shipping games on Xbox. She says, if you aren't on Xbox, we'd love to know why. And honestly, if you're using our competitors' products, you probably have a great perspective we could learn from. Now, again, I think Microsoft, I would hope, would be aware of, and I think they are, of some of the reasons why developers are skipping Xbox. You know, again, I mean, I think most people, I should say most people, I think some people do have probably an understanding, if you follow kind of what developers have been saying about developing for the Series S. You look at things like Bryony says, you don't sell consoles. I mean, there's something to be said for that. The demand for your hardware console is in decline. Developer has to compete with Game Pass potentially, and having developed for the Series S, which requires even more time, money, resources, and then in the hopes of selling that game to the lowest install base. Yeah, I mean that's why people or developers are going to make those decisions to skip Xbox. Let me finish reading the rest of the article here. While the program will gather feedback about tools, performance, time, debugging, utility. Okay, I already read that. All right, Microsoft's outreach for direct game developer feedback comes amid some noticeable delays for third-party releases on Xbox. Baldur's Gate 3 launched on Xbox several months after it first debuted on PS5 because of technical issues developing for the Xbox Series S. Capcom revealed last month that its two new fighting game collections, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Arcade Classics, and Capcom Fighting Collection 2 will come to Xbox in 2025 after technical discussions with Microsoft. Black Myth Wukong is also coming to Xbox after its PS5 release, as its developers are currently optimizing the Xbox Series X and S version to meet our quality standards. Microsoft says the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations that have been raised to us, and single source reports suggest there could be some kind of Sony exclusivity deal involved, although that hasn't been confirmed either. The developers of I'm going to try to pronounce this Inotria, the last song, also publicly announced an indefinite delay to the Xbox version of the game last month after struggling with Microsoft's game review process. The studio's statement about the issues caught the attention of Xbox chief Phil Spencer, who reached out to the team to help resolve the situation. Microsoft would obviously prefer to receive this type of feedback from game developers privately to avoid potential headlines about game developers skipping the platform due to technical issues, tooling, or even process. I can't imagine, like from a PR perspective, that hearing those things or having that developer come out for Intoria, the last song, having to come out and publicly announce that, look, we're not getting any feedback. We've been trying to reach out to the Xbox. They haven't reached out to us. That probably doesn't look good from a PR perspective. And Blake misses why is Xbox acting like they have not been in the industry for 20 plus years? I was kind of thinking about that. Like it's interesting to me. And look, these types of surveys, these things do happen. This isn't new per se. So I don't want people to think that this is some kind of new initiative. Platform owners, as has been shared with me from developers, they typically will ask, specific feedback from developers on, development, issues of development on the platform, maybe why you skipped. I mean, those things aren't typically, that's not necessarily completely out of the realm, but I think what's interesting is, and to your point, Black McMenem, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. there have been some things that they have done that kind of make me question that. You guys have been in the industry for 20 years, you know. Why didn't you get back to a pub? And not Tria. Thank you, Corey Massey. How did you not, the leaked Phil Spencer emails, that, like, hey, we don't have anything in the pipeline for release. Like, how do those things happen, right? Those things are head scratchers for me from leadership. So that is that is the Xbox research that they're doing right now. It's going to be interesting to see when Black Myth Wukong comes out for Xbox. I hope that game comes out soon for the Xbox. It's a great game. Should be there. Blake says, don't forget the hack dev also cannot get in contact with Xbox support either. Is it hack? Okay, so maybe I'm is it developer for and not Tria that also try to reach out to Xbox, or is it hack? I might be confused. I might be. Because I know there was one developer that went out on Twitter. I don't remember now who it was. That went out and put Xbox on blast, more or less. It was both. Oh, same issue. Okay, so it was both developers then. Yeah, I mean that's a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher for me. It's a head scratcher. It's like, what's happening there? Well, why are these things happening? Why aren't you getting back to your, to your suppliers? Like, what is that? Like, why? Like, that is. Oh, they both went on Twitter. Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, like, how do you not communicate with your suppliers, with your partners? Like, that's a problem. There's a gross lack of communication. They laid off all the support roles. I mean, that will do it. But even if you do that, there should be some contingency in place. Okay, yes, we're laying off, support roles, but the folks in this department are going to assume that responsibility now. I mean, that's typically what happens. There's some kind of contingency plan. Yeah, and I hope they're not leaving it to AI bots to deal with their suppliers. That would not, in my opinion, be good. If considering that these things have happened. Yeah, I understand, like, they're on AI, but still there's got to be some, I would imagine there's somebody, a human, that is ensuring that the communication between your suppliers, your partners is taking place, especially when it comes to, supporting your hardware, your gaming platform. Like we talked about on this show, like I haven't been overly impressed with a lot of the communication messaging from Xbox this generation. I see little things like what we're just talking about, the two publishers, developers not getting any feedback from Microsoft. Phil kind of being coy with his, think about the February update and then, saying that, oh, well, it's, it's just these 4 games or whatever it is he said, and it's more. We've known that. Look, I mean, there's a reason why they are in the position they're in. And all that stuff comes from the top. It's leadership. I've always said that. I've always said, like, successful organizations have good leadership. But I really haven't been impressed with. Look, I think Phil's done some great things for Xbox, but I think some other things he hasn't been so great at. I think the messaging has been a problem. I think, when that leaked email where, he's like, hey guys, we don't have anything lined up for this year. Like, what? Like, how do you let that happen? Like, your ability to sell hardware solely rests on your ability to put out good games that are going to drive consumers to or eyeballs to your platform. You got to give people reason to put eyeballs on the platform. I don't know. People are saying that, and it's interesting. Like, I feel like people on the Xbox side often argue against their own interest. On one hand, they'll say, well, hardware sales don't matter for them. And then they game on the Xbox hardware. Well, you do realize that if hardware sales don't matter to them and they don't care about selling hardware, then that's going to impact the developer support that hardware gets. So you're almost arguing against your own interest as a consumer. Like, why would you do that? I bought a Series X at the start of this generation. That takes critical thinking, BRAP. Yes, it actually does. Thank you, Sam C. I bought the Xbox Series X of this generation just on, what they were saying about the console and the hardware. And I just feel like they haven't lived up to that. I know people bring up Hellblade 2, and that's a very impressive looking game. But outside of that, I haven't been really wowed by their first party. They've had some, decent games. I thought Starfield was okay. 8 out of 10 for me. I liked Halo Infinite, the multiplayer. I hope Indiana Jones pans out, but Microsoft's put themselves in a position where you don't need an Xbox anymore. And so if you're an Xbox hardware owner, it's a bit confusing to me for you to champion this new direction, saying this is the future the industry is going. Future being future, but that's not even certain because it's in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But in the present, you're arguing against your own interest. You're arguing against developers bringing games to your platform that benefit you as a consumer. Just an observation. Corey Mass says, BRAP, that bothers me so much, and it's true for both Sony and Microsoft. Fanboys argue against their own self-interest, and it makes no sense. I agree with you 100%, Corey. It does happen on both sides. I've always said fanboy behavior is the behavior of being a fanboy is anti-consumer behavior because you argue against your own interest as a consumer. That's why I take issue with guys like the Colt Eastwoods, the Boomsticks, because they just are out to push propaganda, try to. There's another dum-dum out there. I forget his name. He's the guy that bought a bunch of subs for his channel. But, these guys just, they're so caught up in we need to tear down Sony, make Xbox look good. The only way Xbox is going to look good is if they get good content, good games. That's it. That's the name of the game. It always has been. Great games. Great games drive people to platforms. That's it. That is it. That's always been the case. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you there, 021. I can at least understand Sony fanboys. It's a good product. I don't disagree. It's a good product, but I think sometimes Sony fanboys often think that everyone wants PlayStation. Everybody wants their first party games, and I don't buy that. Not everybody wants their first party games, and they often look at people side-eyed if they don't enjoy Sony first party games, which I don't agree with. Look, and again, I'm not saying look, and you know, back to Phil Spencer, like I said, I think he's done some good things. I like the idea of Game Pass, but I think Game Pass presented some challenges for them because it didn't hit the numbers. It didn't really hit that. It didn't hit the numbers they thought it was going to. I don't think it's sustainable, Blake, with first party games day and date, those big budget games day and date going into the service. Because again, I mean, you have to account, Sean Way said, Phil said, yeah, that was kind of an odd statement when he said that. I'm like, no, Phil, like, and that's kind of when it goes back to, I think Brian, he said this, like, or if it wasn't Brian, it was Blake. He said, haven't they been in the gaming for 20 years? And when Phil said that, I'm like, well, wait a minute, Phil, like, you know, that's not true because literally a great game is what puts you guys on the map. And that game's called Halo. Yeah, Ice Cream Gaming. I don't disagree. I think that that game coming to PlayStation that had probably been in the works for some time. I would say again, just my speculation or just spitballing, that he knew about that when he had the February meeting. But I am excited for Indiana Jones, though. I really hope that game turns out well. Really looking forward to it. I think they're gonna. I think they're coming out with hardware. Saber 21. I don't think they're gonna abandon hardware because of all the people that are on Game Pass on console. What does concern me though is if they're not focusing on being competitive in the hardware space, that leaves Sony to their own devices, and that worries me a bit because I don't want Sony to be by themselves. Competition is actually good for consumers. And Sony unchecked could do things like raise prices of video games, of their subscription service, of their hardware, unchecked. I think, Brian, I think they're going to do both. I think they're going to do console and handheld. But who knows? Who knows? We'll find out about the handheld thing. Yeah, but Siru, at that time with PlayStation 2, I mean, yes, it was very popular. In part, and you remember a lot of PS2s were also because they were cheap DVD players. Not a knock against the PS2, but Nintendo was a bit more competitive in that space. Microsoft was there, so I wouldn't say they had a monopoly. They were definitely more popular, but there were other competitors there to kind of keep them in check. And then they lost their freaking minds and told people to get a second job when they released the PlayStation 3. That's the Sony I don't want. And that is my concern that might be the Sony we do get because of the lack of competition in the space, in the high-end console space. That's why we say. I mean, it's just the more competitors they are in a space, the better it is for consumers. Leads to more choice. Often leads to more innovation. Better quality. When you're the only person in the room selling a device or a product, I mean, what's the incentive for you to innovate, to put out quality? There's no one there to check you. There's no other option for consumers to go to. So that's the part that concerns me a bit. That's the part that concerns me. Look, we have about 100 people here watching. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Helps people find the channel. And yeah, but Siri, Nintendo competes in a different space. Steam's PC. Diminishing returns on technology. Do you mean like graphics? I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna see those big paradigm shifts that we saw, like going from 2D to 3D or boxy characters, to more, I guess, like naturally looking characters. I guess. Remember, characters used to be kind of boxy, had baked in facial features. That's gone. But I do think we're still see graphical improvements in terms of like using things like path ray tracing, stuff like that. I still think we're going to see some graphical improvements. You look at like the Unreal Engine 5 demo that came out a while back. That looked pretty good. So I'm not so sure that I don't think that we're going to see those big paradigm shifts in terms of like something going from like 2D to 3D. But I do think we're still going to get some visual increases, improvements. With things like path ray tracing, stuff like that. I never forget that Unreal Engine 5 demo that they showed when that person was traversing through the cave and the lighting and everything and how quickly like they were moving. Yeah, that's interesting, Brian. I mean, maybe that's Cerny's perspective. How can they put it? But the new tech's going to be hard because that's going to be expensive. All right, everyone. It is 2:35. I do need to wrap up this Friday BRAP. Oh, let me see. Steadyflow says BRAP. We got to stop believing Nintendo is not a competitor. Nintendo 2 will be more powerful. They'll play a lot of third-party games. The ability to play and the quality of those games are two different conversations, Steadyflow. And I don't think they're a competitor because they compete for a different market segmentation. They compete for a market that, again, doesn't want to pay $500 for a console that is okay with paying $300. They're competing in for a consumer that sees or values portability. They're just in a different market. And I say this all the time. The gaming industry, the gaming market, is a stratified market. You have different consumers at different wants, different needs, different requirements. And so Nintendo is kind of on, like Mary Wilcox just said, Nintendo is in a league of their own. They're not competing with the PlayStation consumer. They're just not. Yeah, and you're right, Mary. Like Nintendo's kind of just they're dominating that space that they're in. There's no one else doing it. which is why they do some of the draconian things that they do. 'Cause no one's there to check them. It's terrible, but. All right, everyone. I do need to wrap up the show, but I want to thank everyone for coming by and hanging out with us. We have about over 100 people here watching today, so appreciate the support as always. Also want to give a big shout out to the BRAP panel members, B Money, Slow Mo Backslap, Gaming Forte, Game Logic. We all haven't been together, I think, in some time, but maybe, was it last Wednesday? Maybe we were all together. No, we weren't, because Game Logic wasn't with us. But big shout out to those gentlemen, and thank you, everyone in the live chat, for hanging out with me this afternoon. I really appreciate your time and support, as always. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Helps people find the channel. And more importantly, do that YouTube thing. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live. Thank you, Mayor Wilcox. Thank you to the mods. Again, thank you, everyone in the live chat. Please, let me know in the comment section what you think about Ubisoft. You think Ubisoft's going to be bought out, or if Tencent and the I forget the brothers' names now, if they're going to buy out Ubisoft and turn it into a private company, or you think Ubisoft will be sold to another company. Let me know what you think about gamers being angry, and also let me know about Silent Hill 2. Currently sits at 87 Metacritic. Let me know if that's a game that you are planning on picking up. But more importantly, everyone, have a great weekend. Have fun playing video games. Don't take video games as seriously as the angry gamers do, because gaming is entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. If you're getting angry about gaming or about the sex of a protagonist or the appearance of a protagonist, you are doing gaming wrong. It's supposed to be fun. It's not that serious. But on that note, everyone, I'm out. Have a great weekend. Catch you next time.